Hello, and welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast. Thursday, October 26th of 2023. I took a couple of days off. Not going to lie, playoff baseball should not wear me out to the degree that it does. After all, I only host a 2-hour radio show. But I was gassed, took a couple of days off, figured that we'd have some answers about the future of Dusty Baker in a couple of days. And of course, over the last couple of days, we did learn his future. He officially retired via a press conference earlier this afternoon. Thanks for joining me. It's live at youtube.com/Paul Gallant or twitch.tv/Gallant Says. We are working on a regular schedule now that baseball season, at least as far as I'm concerned, is done. It's also available in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. We did have a couple of emails. gallantsays@gmail.com if you ever have a question or comment. Dwight is dealing with being in a family of Rangers fans, saying it is the worst. I have two brother-in-laws in Dallas that are pounding on me. Phrasing: nothing worse than a brother-in-law pounding. This is some weird sounding shit, dude. He also says he hates 400-foot singles. Yeah, that Adolis Garcia hit off the wall could have been a 3-home run game in Game 7. Maybe they shouldn't have pitched to him. We also got another email from Ron Simmons in Colorado Springs. He said, I lived in Houston until 1996 when I joined the military. I now live in Colorado. Just wanted to say I really enjoy your videos about the Astros. Do you see the Astros being better next year if they return all their starters? The big question is about the pitching staff. Framber Valdez, you'd think, is better than what you saw both this year in the regular season and this year in the playoffs. But maybe he's not going to be that guy again. Maybe last year, where he had that consecutive quality start streak, was the anomaly of his career. And Christian Javier as well. This was his first full season as a starter. Didn't really begin well. There were some nice moments. The game against the Twins, first game against the Rangers, but obviously things cratered in Game 7. So, with that in mind, will the Astros be better next year if they return all their starters? I don't know. There seems to be a conventional thought that, yeah, just because Dusty Baker is gone, they will be. And I'm not sure I believe that. If you listen to my radio show earlier today, I said that I really don't know what the future for the Astros holds. I'm not excited about what's next because whoever the next manager is, it's more likely than not that the Astros are going to bring in somebody who sees eye to eye with the front office, which could also mean is deferential to the front office. And I don't know that you necessarily want that, because I don't know that in a post-Jeff Luhnow, post-AJ Hinch, post-James Click, post-Dusty Baker world, that they've proven that they're going to do the right thing. We're going to figure this out a couple of years from now. And this is me not suggesting they'll be bad or that they'll be good. I really don't know what the future holds. I just feel a little uncomfortable with all of this power consolidated in the Astros front office. So we're talking about Jim Crane, who's obviously rather hands-on, whose fingerprints were all over the Justin Verlander trade. We're talking about Jeff Bagwell, who seems super resistant to the idea of incorporating analytics into roster building, decision making that does drive a lot of smart, but sometimes insufferable Astros fans crazy. Reggie Jackson, kind of the same vibe you get from him, also in the mix. And then it's Dana Brown, who you're not really sure has autonomy. You knew that this past season, he expressed issues with Dusty Baker's lineups from time to time, and Dusty never changed them, which makes you feel like Brown didn't really have all that much power. Is that going to change with Dusty Baker gone? So I think you really got to wonder about what's next. And I don't know who the best fit is as far as the next manager of the Houston Astros, with Dusty Baker officially retiring. I'd like someone, though, who has the ability to push back against the front office. A front office with Jim Crane, who seems to be rather aggressive, competitive, combative, cutthroat. Jeff Bagwell, who's a Hall of Famer. Reggie Jackson, who's a Hall of Famer. And if you bring in a young guy, which it seems is going to happen, who's probably not going to be paid that much and is deferential to the general manager or ownership, it just seems unlikely that you're going to get somebody that's going to be offering different viewpoints. And by the way, sometimes different viewpoints can be bad, but my big concern is that there are going to be too many voices that sound the same in the room. Differing voices can be good. Some comments, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. Let Me Pipe says, what's up? Bleed Blue at twitch.tv/Gallant says late. Whatever, man. I don't know what time we're doing this at. My Kitchen is Dirty says hi. And Hal Tapia comments, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. I miss Brent Strom. And with Jeff Easterby meddling with the coaching search, it has me nervous. I hope Jerry Jones, knows what he's doing. I don't think it's fair to draw comparisons to Jack Easterby when it comes to Jeff Bagwell. Bagwell played, and I know some people get annoyed with the idea that somebody playing knows what they're doing. The big thing that the Astros have been great at over the last decade has been scouting specifically South America and finding diamonds in the rough there, the Caribbean as well. And it doesn't seem like Bagwell's necessarily going to be someone with expertise on that front, but Bagwell at least played. There are some qualifications for Jeff Bagwell being an advisor to Jim Crane. Jack Easterby's a fucking chaplain. Never made any sense. And from the sound of things, he really forged a lot of his qualifications. I also don't think the Jerry Jones, Jim Crane comparisons are warranted yet, because Crane as an owner, he's won multiple titles, and it doesn't seem like he has blown things up. Now, this could happen down the road. We could be thinking about this in a couple of days, or excuse me, not days, in a couple of years, but I feel like it's unfair to say that about him now. This could be bad. It could be good. We're going to get to the comment that Sports Hulk made in a little bit, but Dusty Baker had his press conference to announce his retirement earlier this afternoon. And I've noticed over the past 24 hours, a lot of online Astros fans dumping on Dusty Baker for a couple of quotes. This is from the Bob Nightingale USA Today piece talking about Baker wanting to remain in baseball in some role. He wants to remain in an advisory position with the team, either the Astros or a team closer to his Sacramento home. He said this: I've still got a lot to offer. Baseball has been my life. I have a lifetime of knowledge, much more than those who have never played the game. Some online hated hearing more than those who have never played the game. But isn't he right? Even if he's 74 years old and maybe is resistant to some of the changes that have come to the sport and is perhaps a little bit too deferential to veteran players, I could agree with some of that pushback. But is he wrong? He does have a lifetime of knowledge, and he does have more knowledge than those who have never played the game. No offense to all the people who love baseball, who follow it every single day and have all sorts of hot takes online, even if they're informed, even if they're backed by data. This idea that you know more about baseball than Dusty Baker is fucking stupid. It is. And we got to a point this year where people weren't quite saying it, they were implying it. Dusty's this fool who is gifted an incredible roster. And I'm not going to act like Dusty Baker's the best baseball manager ever, but I felt like a lot of the talk about Dusty Baker as he was defending a World Series crown was disrespectful in nature and flat out dickish, and generally coming from the same kind of condescending cunts that think they know better than everybody. I know that word makes some go back and aghast, but that's how some of you act online. And in England, that's a term that's used regularly. Maybe I've been watching a little bit too much of The Boys and Billy Butcher of late, but I do think that word is a great way to describe the way that some spoke about Dusty as if he's some idiot out there. He's not. Yeah, you wanted to see more Yainer Diaz than Martin Maldonado. Is that the reason the season ended? No. It's Framber Valdez and Christian Javier. Maybe there should have been more Chas McCormick in the regular season. Did they not win the AL fucking West? Oh, yeah, they did. Huh. So the first quote that some of the online Astros fans who think they know better than everybody was that one. I have a lifetime of knowledge more than those who have never played the game. Then at his press conference on Thursday, Dusty said this. He started thinking about retirement last winter, and there were a couple of instances, a couple of articles that helped him make up his mind. And people pounced all over that. Oh, he's sensitive. Oh, he's soft. He continued saying, while he did not go into the specifics of which articles they were, he was clearly deeply bothered by his treatment by the media this season. And I don't think it's just the media. I do think that it's also the fans and pushback that he received that definitely affected the way he was feeling. He won the World Series the year before. Was he along for the ride? Maybe. But he's not a fucking moron. And that generally was the impression that I felt people who covered the team and people who were fans of the team had of Dusty last year. And it was fucking disrespectful. When asked if he ever felt mistreated or disrespected by the Houston media, Dusty replied with a simple, sometimes. That's all he said. That's it. Darian Scott, youtube.com/Paul Gallant says Jeremy Branham is the reason Dusty retired. No, it's not that. I imagine that Dusty probably got tired of the constant criticism and realized that, like, I can't really make everybody happy in this role. But it's more people like this. And before I share a couple of tweets with you, I do want to say this. I think that this guy is actually a very positive part of those who follow the Houston Astros online. I think he had a nice write-up the other day. But I also think there's a condescending looking down upon anyone who doesn't see eye to eye with him. And it rubs me the wrong way because I do think this guy thinks he knows more about baseball than Dusty Baker. So I'm going to show you a couple of tweets here. This is from at Mike Mitch NH on Twitter. And I think he's a good follow, by the way. This isn't me calling him out. I just think these tweets are twatish. Dusty taking a shot at, quote, those who have never played the game in his salty retirement quote is too perfect after he inherited a 108-win team built by guys who never played the game. Feels like Mike's a little sensitive to the guys who never played the game comment. And yeah, Jeff Luhnow never played the game. Watch that PBS documentary Frontline, where it talks about how Jeff Luhnow, removed from baseball, came in, brings numbers into the equation, Of course, he had done some things with the Cardinals before then, but that's one of the big reasons that the Astros were able to turn things around in the way that he did. And Mike follows this tweet up by saying, regardless, he's a legend of the sport and wish him the best in his consulting work. But that follow-up, you don't see it in the first tweet. You just see the first one if you're online. And this is why I like to stay off Twitter, because the context is lost when it's 280 characters or less. And maybe Mike could have included that at the very end of it. But is Dusty not allowed to push back against the nonstop criticism that he received this year as if he was a fucking moron? Because that was the implication. It was. People weren't saying it, but there was a disgust with Dusty Baker as if he was fucking Bill O'Brien as general manager of the Houston Texans. And the guy was the manager of a World Series champion. Maybe he was more Barry Switzer than Jimmy Johnson, but he still won. I'm going to read another tweet by Mike. It's a retweet of a Chandler Rome recap of a quote I just read. Dusty said he started thinking about retirement this winter. Then he said there were a couple of instances, a couple of articles that made up his mind in the summer. Mike retweets it saying, "Thank you for your service, Chandler." There's this air of people being happy that he's retiring. Good riddance. Why? Is the next manager definitely going to be better? No one can truly answer that. Another tweet, this is by Mike. Coaches leaked Dusty's private ranting about Chas McCormick's weight to the media. Chandler ran an article on it, and Dusty decided to retire. Hilarious. Is it that simple? Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. He responded to this saying, Chandler going to celebrate his Pulitzer with some banana pudding. And when someone responded, leave the man alone. He's a good, heated man. Gave himself to the club, the city, and the fans. Give him a graceful exit without all your opinions and criticisms. And you can have opinions and criticisms of him. But there's this idea from, I think, people like Mike that, like, he's not allowed to push back on that criticism. I think he fucking is. He wasn't the reason this season came to an end. And the implication seems to be that Dusty Baker is the reason that the Astros didn't win the ALCS. Nope, that's Framber Valdez and Christian Javier. That's simple. Those guys sucked. Kyle Tucker, throw him in there as well. Those are the reasons you lost. He can't pitch. He can't hit. Was Yainer Diaz, when he came to the plate in this series, that much more valuable than Martin Maldonado? Sadly, no. He did have the one hit in Game 5. John Singleton pinch hitting for Jeremy Pena the second time. It made sense because, guess what? That closer for the Rangers throws lots of balls in a row. John Singleton, patient. Jeremy Pena was giving you nothing. And Mike followed up that response to John saying, I don't have any issue with Dusty Baker as a person, or Maldi, or whoever. I just don't see members of the team that way in their professional capacity. But it does feel like you have an issue with them. And it's a lot of people that are like that. And to me, as somebody who's watching this, maybe not from a neutral perspective, but just gets tired of everybody having the exact same fucking opinion, it just felt like there were too many people that hated Dusty Baker. And I think Dusty Baker criticism was overdone. I, too, would be salty, which was how he was described. I feel like saying sometimes in response to saying, did the criticism bother you from time to time? Is that salty? It's just an honest response. As is saying, like, yeah, I still know about baseball and I should be involved in the game in some way. I'd be salty, too, of a bunch of antisocial dorks. Let's be honest, a lot of the people online that are tweeting as much as they are generally antisocial and wouldn't have the same kind of conversations they have online with someone in person. If a bunch of those people were calling me an idiot over lineups during a season where my team won the division, despite pitching that was underachieving and bats that were underachieving, more so in the playoffs than in the regular season, I feel like it's actually totally fair to be salty. And again, I want to say, like, Dusty Baker criticism was warranted from time to time. But this year, the criticism of Dusty was fucking over the top. he was not the reason that this division was the race that it was. They played like shit in September while the Rangers and Mariners were puking all over themselves. And this good riddance vibe that I got from a lot of Astros fans and adjacent media is a continuance of people who know way less about baseball than they'd care to admit being dicks. And it's the same kind of condescending, patronizing online dicks who speak this way about politics too, and maybe unintentionally had a hand in one outsider getting elected. If you tell people you're an idiot to vote for this person, do you think that the people that actually want to vote for this person for their own particular reasons, maybe from an informed reason, what are they going to say to you? Are they going to agree with you? Are you going to convert their opinions in any way? No. They're talking down to someone or talking down about someone when you're not actually in a position of expertise, self-proclaimed expertise, which we all have thanks to the internet these days. It doesn't make you more right than somebody else online. And I think this is a byproduct of online baseball fans. The accept analytics or else crowd generally fucking sucks. Because they all operate in this like condescending, talking down to you manner. And if they actually did it in a, hey, here's how this works, maybe they're impatient, maybe they're tired of constantly doing it, but more people would embrace analytics, which are a very useful tool in all sports, if these people weren't such assholes about it. If they had any tact, they might convert some stragglers. So this year, down the stretch, you see all those videos I posted where I'm being pro-Dusty. The main reason I was zagging as pro-Dusty was because of all these other people who were acting like Dusty Baker was the reason that the Astros were underachieving. Obsessing over the lineup every single day. Should Yainer Diaz have played more? Sure. Should Chas McCormick have played more than Corey Julks? Sure. That's not the reason the Astros lost the ALCS in 7 games. They still won the division. They still were a game away from the World Series through all of that. So zagging against that, mainly to piss those people off, which I'll admit I'm not above doing. If it ends up being just about as right as them, then, I don't know, maybe, just maybe, you should sit back and reflect on the way that you've handled this year and the way that you've talked about the guy. And I truly think that it's been downright disrespectful, some of the ways that people have been talking about Dusty this year. I do want to read some comments. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. The Rangers will win the World Series, unfortunately. As a Mariners fan, it sucks. Yeah, they spend money. The Mariners did not. Another comment. Twitch.tv/Gallant says, Bread Blue says, this is the least interactive stream on Twitch. Well, it's got it. Well, I don't know. Like, actually say anything that makes sense. You're speaking and none of the words are spelled out. When Houston lose NY, I hope they incentivize ask for Dusty next year. I don't know what you're talking about, brah. Like, I can't read that. Andrew Ramirez, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. I think analytics is good and bad. Just look at the Yankees and how they have sucked. I think we should at least be grateful that the Astros have not gone to that point. Hopefully our pitchers can do good. They have to be better. That's why I jokingly suggested bring Brent Strom back. I didn't know Strom was actually older than Dusty Baker. David Fernando Bracamontes Jr. comments, Christian Javier needs to develop a new go-to pitch this offseason when the fastball is missing. He can't be a two-pitch starter. He becomes very predictable. Yeah, and when people turn on those fastballs, you see what Adolis Garcia does. Not a doctor comments, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. Analytics has its place, but you got to trust that your manager knows what he's doing. Otherwise, why not just say F it and go full manager GM? Well, I mean, that's what a lot of teams are doing right now. They're going full general manager, tells the manager what to do. And I don't have an issue with that. I kind of like that there's a back and forth. I think that everybody being on the same page lends itself to bad things. Angel Tapia says the Dusty hate needs to stop. You are right on that. The series was on the players. Also, what do you think of the batter's eye? LOL. I mean, maybe that is the reason that they struggled so much at the plate this year, the altered batter's eye. I do understand more about like picking up pitches and specific ways that they look when they come out of a pitcher's hand. If there is a worse contrast behind the ball, I can understand how that would affect the Astros. But I mean, there's another team playing there too. Shouldn't the team that's also there have the same kind of struggles at home? Wouldn't the superiorly that's not a word. Wouldn't the superior talent team win more often than not? The Astros were generally the more superior team when they're going up against a lot of these squads. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant to jump in. Twitch.tv/Gallant says, there was a comment earlier I want to read. This is from at Sports Hulk. Number one Astros fan here, and I will support the Rangers. Keep the ship in Texas. I don't want the Snakes to take the championship. Why do you want to keep it in Texas? What is up with this weird boomer kind of mentality about let's keep this Texas? Like, why? I don't get it. It's Dallas. Houston hates Dallas. Right? Like, you're going to root for your state? It's the same logic of rooting for your conference in college football in a big game. I don't fucking get it. Why? Root against your rivals. Hope that they suffer pain. You don't want those fan bases to have anything to brag about to you. I don't get why you'd want the Rangers to win. And I saw a couple of comments from stations that shows at stations I compete with at ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. First, I'm going to show you a tweet by Clint Sterner. When my squad's eliminated, I fan by two lines of thinking. I pull for the team that knocked my squad out or I pull for the team from Texas. Call me crazy, but I'm pulling for the Rangers 100% in the World Series. Who's with me? I think he was trying to pander here without understanding the general audience of Houston hates Dallas sports teams. Or I pull for the team from Texas. I think that's straight pandering. Now, Clint did play for the Dallas Cowboys, so a little bit different for a guy like Clint, right? But I don't know. Isn't this worse than what his old co-host Rick Hamlet tweeted about Andrew Luck quitting? Because Andrew Luck did quit, it seemed like, without telling his teammates before a season began. He's your starting quarterback. I don't know. I would like to know before the season begins that he's quitting. And he got killed for that. And honestly, I joined in on that, but I was bitter and unemployed at the time. But, I mean, you rooting for a Dallas team publicly? And not the only show to do it. I saw the Sean Salisbury show tweet out, congratulations to the Rangers. Bring back the World Series win to Texas. I don't know if this was from Sean, but it was from the show. Sean says, first, I don't run the account. Second, Bruce Bochy's a friend of mine. I actually do not think wishing a team luck in the World Series is anything but that. Good luck. Love Boch. The key here is I take friends over team if the Astros are not in it. Hat tip to both. Because I tweeted this out. Nothing like a good Vichy French-style radio, Zag. And I think he tweeted something else about the Boston Red Sox, which I wasn't really 100% understanding. And some people are probably going to crush me for doing my Astros Mariners shirt bit last year. And you can. But come playoff time, I was always going to root for the Astros. And I definitely did not, no offense to any Mariners people out there. After some of the shit that I dealt with the 710 Sports chat that I was on, all the shit talking that happened in game one, I was like, you know what? I went from wanting them to actually experience happiness for a change to being like, you know what? Fuck these people. I love them, but fuck them. I don't want them to see any success. But those are a couple of tweets that were out there with people in Houston media rooting for a Dallas team. And I guess John McClain was doing the same fucking thing. I changed my mind about hoping the Rangers win the World Series. I didn't consider this, as pointed out by Seth Payne on Sports Radio 610 today. Brent Strom is the D-backs pitching coach after spending 8 years with the Astros and doing such a great job. I'm rooting for Strom and Arizona. But at first he was rooting for the Rangers. What the fuck? What are we doing? Number one, I don't understand rooting for a rival in your division or conference as it is at all, especially when that team is from a city that you consider your rival just in life. Or maybe you're annoyed by the way that they are. Materialistic, $30,000 millionaires. acting like Dallas is the LA of the South. It's not even like near water. What is there, a lake? Isn't it man-made? I don't know. All I know is rooting for a team in your division is weird. Rooting for a team that is from a city nearby you that is generally your rival in sports is weird. Maybe it's because the rivalry's new. But it's even worse when the team just fucking beat you. Why would you support someone that has conquered you unless they've got you at gunpoint or they're about to kill you? If they did it by actual force, I'd get it. And by the way, that doesn't even really happen in history. I read about some of the great empires in history, and Persia, obviously they conquered a lot of land, but the rulers were tolerant and allowed the people they conquered to retain their laws, religions, and languages instead of forcing them to adopt the Persian ways. The Romans generally avoided forcing their religion on the people they conquered, though they were a little brutal with the Gauls. As long as people paid their taxes to Rome and followed Roman rules, they were allowed to practice their own religion. This tolerance changed Roman culture. The Mongols killed lots of people. That's for fucking sure. But they rarely imposed their beliefs on those they conquered. So, okay, you got 3 conquering empires here. They're not forcing people to change their minds at gunpoint. Now, I mean, they were implying that, hey, root for us. You're part of us now. You got to root for us. Better not speak out against us. But those are situations where lands were taken by force. There were obviously some recent empires, the Nazis, the Soviets, who forced the people they conquered to adopt their worldview. But again, like that, the Rangers did not invade the city of Houston and put everybody in jail and then say, the only way that you're out is if you root for us in the World Series. So I just don't get this. Like, isn't it kind of unmanly, beta, to root for the people that beat you? I think it is. And maybe it's just because I watched a documentary on PBS this week about the IRA, the Irish Republican Army in Northern Ireland. It's called Once Upon a Time in Northern Ireland. It's really funny watching people talk with an Irish accent, too. Dusty Baker, disrespect, Israel. There's this weird intonation that a lot of Irish people in this, at least documentary, speak with. I could read this John McClane tweet. I changed my mind about helping the Rangers win the World Series. I didn't consider this. It was pointed out by Seth Payne on Sports Radio 610 today. Brent Strom is the D-backs pitching coach after spending 8 years with the Astros and doing such a great job. I'm rooting for Strom in Arizona. So there you go. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Joe Mama says, go Rangers, suck it, Paul. I'm just not going to watch the World Series. Rick and Rolla says, fuck the Rangers. Not a Doctor says, why not just root for every team at that point because they're all American, right? It's foolish. And here's the funny thing, too. Like, I've said this before. If the Yankees were playing Russia or China, I mean, I'd root for Russia and China. I would. Honestly, probably like 15 years ago when Peyton Manning was the quarterback of the Colts, even more hard, I would root for Russia or China against those Colts. 100%. It's fun to root against people, especially if they beat you. Now, it's kind of lame to watch the World Series hoping that they'll lose knowing that they beat you, because then at the end of the day, you still have to remember, man, we could have won this series. Oh, shit, they beat us. I'm only watching on the off chance that this fan base might experience misery. Derek Gray says, the fact I thought this might be a real sports show, seeing all the endless videos and vines, 24 viewers, this guy is a bum. Listen, sometimes we get big viewers, sometimes we don't. It's all about the algorithm, baby. Rob 2020, go Snakes. I don't want to hear it from our rival. Yeah, same thing here. Jesse Cass, hey, Paul, you dislike Peyton Manning? Yeah, I grew up a Patriots fan and a Gators fan. Can't stand either. of his eras, as Taylor Swift would describe. At Tennessee, with the Colts. Blah, blah, blah. We have to root for all the sports because, humanity. I mean, that could be the next step of all of this. Joe Mama says the Rangers are about to blow the Diamondbacks out. I don't know. I feel like a lot of Rangers fans were saying the same thing about the Astros when they were down 0-2, and that changed. And then all of a sudden you were really loud after Game 6 again, but you were quiet for a couple of games in between. I would just say take things a game at a time. This is new for you guys, Rangers fans. Like, this is your first time in there. So have fun, Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Appreciate y'all tuning in for this episode of the Gallant Says podcast. It's live at youtube.com/Paul Gallant or twitch.tv/Gallant Says. You can also join in podcast form, Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, or you can send an email in, gallantsays@gmail.com if you ever have a question. So long, farewell, have yourselves a wonderful Thursday and a wonderful weekend. We'll be back at it on Sunday after the Texans game against the Carolina Panthers.